do we define community, and what role do community spaces play in creating social justice? Kimberly Wu is a public health professional and PhD candidate at Tulane University. Kimberly, what inequalities are you looking at through your research and work, and how does community come into play?
I'm really curious about how is it that sort of experiences of, sort of structural violence, right? The impact of different laws or different policies and different practices, how does that actually create an environment that may in fact impact, specifically I'm looking at the mental health needs of adolescents in this population. How does it affect young people? Where are they looking for different types of resources to help themselves cope and support each other? And also then, what is the role of, community beyond adolescents, also including the adults, also including a lot of these institutions that are in the middle of a moment of transformation right now?
Wow. So what are some of the things or patterns that you are already seeing that are interesting to you?
I'll start with the idea of community cultural wealth, which is really this very broad notion that we are looking at sort of understanding social capital or the sort of resources that people have in a very materialistic way, where we oftentimes simply think about, the hospital, schools, a lot of these material things, which are very important, but there's also, through this community cultural wealth model, this opportunity to bring in some of these other resources, such as a connection to maybe overcoming injustice, and actually how for a lot of young people and for a lot of families, that is a really strong resource, whether you call it resiliency or you call it, coping mechanisms or healing, whatever that might be for different communities and for different young people. We know that that is an area that needs to be uplifted, because a lot of times we tend to look at research from a deficit perspective. What is it that people are lacking? How do we give it to them? Instead of seeing that, in fact, there's already a very rich network, right, and a rich well of resources that are being generated at different levels in a lot of these community spaces.
Drawing on community cultural wealth means emphasizing non-tangible resources such as resilience. It also means developing a sense of kinship within a community and between communities.
We need to have this idea of kinship and embody the importance of seeing all of our sort of, fellow human, beings, like our brethren, our citizens, whomever, our colleagues, all of these individuals that are around us as being so deeply connected is really key as we're all navigating these big changes that are unfolding right now.
So this is a shift in discourse from the concept of allyship that we hear a lot, which is also very important and very valuable. But there's a subtlety here that shifts the focus to something more profoundly connected. Am I hearing you right?
Was that a lot of the language around allyship, or I don't know if y'all have also heard this idea of being a co-conspirator or an accomplice in social justice. There's a reason that that kind of language is used to sort of recognize the need for going against, right, certain norms that are sort of embedded in some of these social practices. That is one part of the journey, but that ultimately what we need to come back to is this idea of kinship, that we're all connected and that there is no othering, or we have to continually work towards removing these sort of barriers or these ideas that even the word allyship can sort of suggest, right? The idea of ally can be that, okay, I'm of this group, someone else of this other group, and I need to do what I need to do to sort of help this other group gain access to their rights, which is important. We do need that because we also know not everybody has full access to rights and resources at this moment. But if that's really where we end, I think we're missing out on this deeper opportunity to go to even envision something beyond just equality, right? What could it be like for true thriving or for true flourishing, for everybody to unlock their true potential and not just preconceived notions that we have of the potential.
The idea of kinship is based on a deep recognition of interdependence and draws on a wealth of cultural values.
I'm based in the United States, just recognizing that we have a lot to learn from the Native American and indigenous populations in this country. This idea that there's sort of a relationship with all these different created, constructed, spirits, if you will, or different kind of like relationships that we have that transcends the material, like even to things, that there isn't just a material relationship to something. And that affects, our attitude, that affects like how we truly see like what is our true inventory of like resources. Is it just money, or is it actually determination and people's like motivation to eradicate an injustice? Is it a desire to see an alleviation of suffering, or to actually see young people and all people unlocking their true potential, right? We're definitely at a moment where we know that sort of the language and the tools that give us only a sort of focal point on the material issues, it's not enough, right? Like we need to go deeper. And we need to go deeper in just recognizing our humanity.
What becomes clear is that community efforts place relationships at the center of processes that create social justice. And this is important because transactional relationships will not take us to where we need to get. It will require allyship and deep kinship. Thank you for watching.